Today, I sit down with Ife. She's born and raised in South London, and she became pregnant when she was in her 20s at university. She's been a single mom for 13 years to her daughter. She talks about the hardships she experienced financially, logistically, and mentally. But she also talks about the positives, the close bond she shares with her daughter, and the ability to completely decide how you want to raise someone. This is a really insightful episode, and I hope you enjoy it. Hello and
Oh,
welcome.
hello.
You
Oh,
look
that's great.
fabulous.
Thank you. So do you, considering you've just stepped off a plane?
I'm so jet lagged, but thank you. I'm feeling I'm feeling back alive. Seeing my friends was fun, but definitely heavy drinking involved. So I'm feeling like,
Yeah.
okay, time to like recuperate
Yeah.
and chill the hell out.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. My sister, it's my birthday on Wednesday, so my sisters came over yesterday for like a little early celebration, and I completely feel your pain. There's lots of drinking involved as well. So
Oh, nice. I've got two sisters. How many do you have?
I also have two sisters, so yeah, it was
Okay.
lots of fun.
Yeah, I know how fun that can get.
Yeah, probably too much.
Oh, so I guess it'd be great for you to tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into the topic of being a single parent.
Sure. I was born and raised in South London, so I've always been a Londoner. I grew up kind of near Brixton, so those are kind of I know those streets really well. I
Yeah.
sound like I'm way more interested than I am, but yeah, I grew up around there. My parents are originally both from Nigeria. They emigrated to this country in the 80s, I believe. Um, and um, and yeah, I now work in marketing. So I went off to university in Northampton, uh, came back to London, and have been kind of climbing the career ladder, whilst obviously looking after a child as best as I can since then. So yeah,
Nice.
um, yeah, and I come from I've got three other siblings. I've got two sisters, one brother. Um, yeah, my parents are still together. It's all pretty standard stuff, really.
Nice. Cool. I didn't realize that you were from Brixton. I live in Clapham North,
Yeah.
so just a stone's throw away.
Ah, yeah. So I know that all very well as well. It's a special place, South London.
I agree. So I get that's great to hear a little bit about yourself and like how like you grew up around here. Tell
Yeah.
me, how many kids do you have?
So I have one daughter. She is a 13-year-old girl. Um, and I had her. I went off to uni and just had a great time. And then I came back to London in the holidays, getting ready for my final year of uni, just doing all my little summer jobs, getting everything planned, and found out I was pregnant. Um, so yes, and I was pregnant for, choose my words carefully, because I think we often say things like unfortunately, or things that are quite negative, and actually everything works out because it's supposed to work out in that way sometimes in your life. So yeah, I was pregnant for someone I didn't know very well. We just kind of met and had a great time. I was obviously having a great time over
Yeah.
there. And then yeah, came back in the holidays and found out I was pregnant. My family are probably the most amazing family anyone could ever wish for, because yeah, they kind of supported whichever decision I decided to make. And it's probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, to be honest, being a young 20. I was 20 years old. I was a bit all over the place. I was still studying. I didn't know what to do, and I always had this thing in my mind. Obviously, I've just said that my parents are still together, so I always had, everything that was thrown at me was like traditional, perfect family, two-parent household. You get married, find your Prince Charming. It's all
Mhm.
completely heteronormative, and it was all very kind of fairy tale like. And so when that plan wasn't happening, it just kind of really broke my heart. I was like, no, I can't possibly. And there's absolutely no way I can't be with the father of my child either. I have to try and make this work. So yeah, decided that I was going to give it a go, but I'm also super stubborn, so I decided I wanted to finish uni as well and not take time out. Otherwise, there's always that problem of maybe you might not return and whatnot. So yeah, went back, and yeah, ended up giving birth to my daughter in May and graduated in June. And yeah, it's really nice. But yeah, I mean, trying to make it work with someone that really is not for you, is not something I would
Yeah.
ever recommend. So that
Yeah.
obviously did not turn out how I had planned for it to all turn out.
No. Was he
Mhm.
supportive of your decision to keep your
So
daughter?
yeah, so he was supportive of my decision to keep my daughter. He is in terms of the way I am, there's different types of single parenthood, I'd say, and I am completely on my own. So I don't have any contact with him. There's no financial help. There is no kind of anything. So it's completely myself and my daughter. So yeah,
Wow.
he in the beginning was obviously very supportive of it, but I mean, unfortunately, there wasn't much push from him in terms of actually doing much. He also isn't he's not originally from the UK, so he's actually from America. So yeah, there was just yeah, long story short, without going too deep into talking too much about him, but we basically I have not spoken to him or seen him in a long time.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been raising my daughter on my own, and obviously that was really really difficult in the beginning, especially when you're kind of trying to make ends meet because you're a new graduate who's getting paid peanuts and
Yeah.
like you probably can't quite pay for everything and then you have to rush to this childcare and you've got to do this and you've got to do that, but honestly, as she's grown older and as we've kind of found our groove and as we've settled, it's the most amazing experience, and I'm really, really, really proud of it. And I think it gets a lot. Whenever people think of single parenthood, it's like automatically it's all the negatives. It's like, oh my god, it must be so difficult. Oh, it must be really hard. How do you cope? And it's all of this stuff, and all of that is true. Like it's not easy. Aside from the obvious things of the fact that yeah, it's not easy just raising someone on your own, but like mentally and emotionally, you're literally handling every decision on your own. You've got no one to speak to. You're constantly like it's very, very lonely at times, but there's it's the most amazing experience. My daughter and I have a bond that absolutely no one else will ever understand. Like even if I do end up having lots of other kids in the future and meet someone that I want to be with, I don't think there's ever going to be a bond that's the same as the one that we have. Um,
Yeah.
so you know, it really is incredibly special, and she's super super independent because we kind of work as a partnership, and we found, like I said, we've kind of found that groove now, and yeah, all of those hard times that we went through, we had to go through them, but we're now in a good place. So yeah, it was it's not easy, it's a tough one, but but we've gone through it.
Yeah. When you said, and just to bring it back to you at university, you wanting to finish that your degree off. What was that like being pregnant at university?
So I've revisited that time quite a lot now, just kind of working on myself. And I think that I never ever really sat down and thought about what I was going through. It was all everything was very automatic. And then I had her, and I'm definitely sure really quite I had some kind of postnatal depression, but nothing was dealt with. I just kind of robotically got on with everything I had to do. But when I revisit my time at uni, I just remember how I was. It was really, really difficult. I remember just hiding it. I was so ashamed, like for starters. So I would just like go to my lectures in my big coat and I'd put like my big jumpers on. Didn't tell anyone, any of my friends, like what was happening. And luckily I was quite small, so didn't really took a while for me to show. No one probably knew what was going on. But I just remember just feeling this immense amount of shame. Single parenthood gets such a bad rep, I think. You know,
Yeah.
people do judge you, and I was so embarrassed. Also, like I said, I always had these high expectations for myself of the kind of life I was meant to be planning out, and this wasn't the plan that I had. And I unfortunately I like to work with a plan, which doesn't always work in anyone's favor because things don't always go to plan. But yeah, I had all of this stuff going on, it just wasn't happening. So yeah, I really 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 struggled mentally, if I'm honest, if I look back on it, just constantly trying to hide everything. And you know, obviously I was still working my part-time job, and I was going to lectures, and I was going to midwife appointments in London, so there was still a lot going on. But I
Wow.
think I was just very robotic about it, and I didn't ever really acknowledge the fact that actually there's a lot going on in your head. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was really hard. It was, yeah, when I look back on it, I'd say it was actually very hard. And yeah, and then you know, your body's changing, and you're like, I remember just being in my little halls, my little room in halls, and like I just
Yeah.
could no longer put on a pair of my jeans that I was wearing. I just broke into tears. So I was like, oh, this is really happening. Like I'm just a student here. I can't even fit into my like my
Yeah.
clothes. And yeah, there was just a lot going on, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I guess
I
all
I
of
think I think we need to like take a moment for, the younger Ife and like shout out to her because she, like she was strong and that must have been so hard. So yeah, like that
Oh,
touched my heart just like hearing that. So like when you had your daughter, what's your daughter's name by the way, if you're comfortable sharing?
yeah, I will. I'm sure she will watch this. So her name is Ria.
Oh, so she's 13 now. Okay.
Yes.
And so for you, like getting into the groove, so how did it work like logistically? You like you said, you were a graduate, like graduating, having a
Mm.
child in June, trying to get a job. How did that logistically all work?
I remember sitting. My older sister, she's almost like a second parent, so she'll always tell me like, this is what needs to be done. Blah blah blah. Blah. She's quite tough, and I really appreciate that. But I just remember having a moment when I was just like laying. It was summertime. I graduated. I was just like laying in my parents' garden, and I was a bit like, I just wasn't doing anything. I was like, I don't know where to start. And
Yeah.
she was like, she just sat me down. She's like, I think you should, let's start. Like, you need to start looking for jobs and getting yourself out there. It could take ages. Like, let's start putting a plan into action. And but I just remember just not wanting to get out of bed or move. And now I look back and think actually there was a real problem there. For
Yeah.
me, I was just like, maybe I'm just very tired.
Yeah.
But I just didn't really want to do anything. There was no get up and go. And by then it was completely over with Ria's biological father. Like, I wasn't trying to make something work that wasn't going to work
Okay.
anymore. And he was kind of off doing some things that were not very useful. So I was just like, yeah, I'm definitely in this on my own now. And then, yeah, so I just started to just get out there, did a bit of temping work just to get myself into the world of work.
Yeah.
Worked my way up into probably not what I wanted to do, but kind of really tried my best just to get into work. And I remember it being really hard because I would never again, I still was still carrying this shame with me, like it was still embedded
Mhm.
deep in there. So in the office I would always avoid telling people. I would try to act like just one of the other younger people. I'm never going to tell people that I'm a parent or a single parent.
Yeah.
I'd never ask for extra time off. If I had to rush across London to get something, I would just put all the hours in and then just go crazy rushing on a tube or whatever I had to do to get to where I needed to go, just because
Wow.
I was ashamed of. Not only was I ashamed, but I also didn't want people to think that she couldn't, well, she's a single parent, so she's not going to be able to do what everyone else is. Like, I still wanted to get to where I wanted to
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I remember it being really, really, really hard. And when I look back, I'm really appreciative of where I am now because yeah, it's not. Yeah, I'm now in a good spot in my career. I'm now confident and like I'm grown up. I'm confident enough. I'm aware of myself. I'm confident enough to sit down and be like, yeah, I am a parent. I am raising a child on my own. If I do need time out to not maybe attend that really late meeting, then I'm not going to do it. Like, I've finally found that. And if I could just speak to younger, if I wish she had that confidence and that voice. But I suppose even if you're not the single parent, being a recent graduate in the working world, probably everyone has that kind of, I'm not sure how to speak up,
Oh,
or
yeah.
you
Oh,
know
yeah. It's interesting, like, what you're saying about how you didn't feel like you could speak up. Like, what
mm.
what year, I'd be interested to hear, did you join the workforce?
So I graduated in 2008. So
Okay.
I would, yeah, so it was quite a while ago. And things have changed quite a bit, which I'm really happy to see.
Yeah.
The conversations we're having now were not happening. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think yeah, it was really hard.
I genuinely think because that's where I was leaning towards. I think like nowadays there's a lot more discussion on mental health and workload.
Yes,
People
definitely.
are able to speak up so much more. So yeah,
Mm,
that like it must have been so much harder back then than most of us can even imagine. Because I've never
yeah,
been in a like in work where like even still like when I joined, it was still so different. It was like very
yeah,
traditional. It's come so
yeah,
far in those like
yeah,
5 years, 5 to 6 years.
yeah.
I guess it'd be great to learn a bit like more about like for you, like what was your routine? Like what was a typical day? And pick whatever year. I think it'd be interesting to hear like a year where it was particularly hard and then a year where it was particularly like you felt like you got your groove.
Okay, so if I'm thinking back, I remember it was quite hard. So I would get up. I would get up at like, I don't know, something ridiculous, maybe like 5 o'clock or whatever. Um, make sure that everything was ready because my daughter would go to childminders when she was a lot younger. So make sure that we were all set. I'd had everything prepared for the day, get her up, get her ready, drive her to her childminders, then drive to the train because we live. I don't live in Brixton anymore. I live kind of more kind of Selhurst, Croydonish. So so drive myself to the nearest train station to her childminder's house. So I'd get on the train, back to rush everything. I just remember always running all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I was running all the time everywhere. Like I just never there was never peace really in my mind. It was
Mm,
always constant like this is happening and this is happening. And then while I'm running, I'm thinking that's gonna be happening, that's gonna be happening. So get onto the station, get to the train station, get onto the train to Farringdon, and then literally on the dot, I'd have to rush out of the office as soon as I can because if I missed anything by a minute, then that routine would completely flip. So rush back across to South London, get my daughter from her childminders, get back in. I don't know, maybe by the time we kind of get back in and get our evening started, it's probably like 7:30 by now. And then start the evening routine, which wasn't very much at the time. I don't really think I had much of a life, if I'm honest. It was very much like, okay,
yeah.
get her ready for the next day, try and get some sleep, do what needs to be done, and then do it all over the next day, do it all over again the next day. And I used to find that when I think back to that time, I feel like I'm living a lap of luxury right now because I was like, I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine doing all of like just there was no settle. Like I was never settled. I was constantly like, okay, this and this and this. Financially I was getting paid peanuts as well, so it was literally like trying to make everything work and stretch for the month. And I was always calculating things. I just remember always calculating the budget, always thinking, okay, how are we going to do this for that, and how are we going to make it to the next few days. Like it was always a constant problem. There was always a constant problem solve. That's what I remember. I was always problem solving something.
Yeah.
um or maybe I can lend a bit of money from this person for that, or maybe we can do that, maybe we can do that. And the problem with me is I'm also really proud, so that probably doesn't help as well. So it was always like, I'll do it all on my own, we'll do it all on our own, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. So I say that's probably that was probably the hardest point, because also Ria was still very young. She was heavily reliant on me, and and like I was heavily reliant on her childminder. I didn't see any of the first really. I didn't potty train her because she did all of that. I couldn't do any of that because I had to make sure I was always showing up to the office, and I had to make sure I was doing all of that. But I guess the difficult thing about being on your own is that you've got no one else to speak to and say, is this the right decision? Is this constant guilt? You're like, am I making the right decision for my child? Because it's actually you
Yeah.
have to make all of the decisions. So you're always kind of racked with the guilt as well, and like leaving them for the whole day somewhere and then having to travel to get to an office. So I'd say that was probably a difficult time. I think the extra strain, like I said, was the financial difficulty as well. That
Yeah.
just didn't help. And like none of I was still so young. Like none of my friends, obviously, none of them had kids. None of them could even imagine. I've got the most amazing friendship group. They're very supportive, but none of them were anywhere near being in the situation I was in. They were still all out just doing stuff that you do when you're like, I don't
Yeah.
know, in your 20s and stuff.
Yeah.
So there was all of that. Just it was a quite a time really.
Yeah. It sounds like you
um
had to grow up really quickly.
I think I did. I almost sometimes I look back and think maybe I needed that though. I think Ria was brought to me for a reason, and this situation was given to me for a reason. I know it's a bit of a strange thing to say when you've had to go through lots of really difficult things, but it has changed me for the better. It made me way more responsible, kind of made me have empathy a bit more for other people and for other situations. So
That's amazing. And now describe to me, what would you say is like a day where like you feel like you've gotten into your groove is a good day, and what a good day for you guys looks like?
okay, so
And
a
how it's
good
different.
day. Yeah, oh God, so different. So a good day is, well, we try to be as organized as possible, because there's always, if there's not like a parents even in the calendar, then there's a meeting that I have to get to for work that's quite late or something. So everything's really super in my diary. I've got like an old fashioned paper diary, everything goes in there, and we communicate with each other effectively now. She's a lot older. Like I said, she's way more independent. So a good day is like, she will get up. I'll usually go for my morning run, which never a luxury I could have ever thought of having
Yeah.
back then. When was I ever going to fit in a morning run?
Yeah.
So I'd go for like a morning run. Then come back home. She's usually just about getting herself out of bed. She gets herself ready. If I'm going to be, I'm either in the office or not. I work from home or sometimes go into the office. So if it's a day when I'm in the office, then just make sure that I'm coaxing her and she's having breakfast, because she'll probably just grab something really silly if I don't say, "Are you going to have breakfast?" She gets herself dressed and ready for school. She's normally speaking to and gossiping with her friends as she does that, even though she's going to see them like in a few minutes. um, and then she usually leaves the house. I'll have my kind of post run shower, get myself set up and ready for the day. I like to start work quite early just to make sure I'm getting everything in, because I'm a bit of a control freak. I like want to make sure that everything's kind of started nice and early. And then we've always had a routine ever since she was able to start taking herself from school, which she had to start doing quite soon, because I mean,
Yeah.
she just had to become quite independent quite soon. But we always had a routine that as soon as she gets into school, she texts me to say she's there. And if I don't, I've had some incidences where if I don't receive that text, I'm on the phone to the receptionist at school saying,
Yeah.
"Has my daughter registered today?" Because where is she?
Yeah.
But the modern day is even brilliant, because now we've got Find My iPhone and we've got things so I can just see where she is. I'll get the map out, and just to put my mind at ease, I can see where she is at all points. And then she heads to school, I start work, and then we reconvene in the evening. And either if I'm not doing something in the evening with friends, or if we're doing something together, we try and have, now like I said, we've got so much extra time now, like we can do things, so we try and at least have an evening a week where we sit down and maybe we watch a film or we watch a series or we just do something, because I'm aware that our lives are kind of going in different directions so much, and I want to make sure we've got at least that one day where we just sit down and we watch something funny together. So comparison to the two routines I've just described to you
Yeah.
are very, very, very different. And obviously, I'm not calculating and watching the pennies anymore, and things are just, there is a distinct groove now. Like we understand each other. Like I said, we work like a team.
So between your two, like now looking back, like you feel like you found your groove. And like you said, like it sounds like that's a combination of her getting older, getting independent, and
Yeah,
financially like being able to maybe afford more. Do you like,
yeah.
is there anything you'd look back and do differently? Like any like advice for your younger self of how to manage that?
Looking back, I would definitely, because I think I've taught myself. I didn't really grow up having been taught very much about finances and money, and we're never taught that stuff in school. Speaking to younger me, I would have taught myself money management a bit better. I know it's difficult because you can only do what you can do, but I probably would have taught myself a better way of managing money, and just, I don't know. Yeah, I think I would have taught myself a bit more of that. I also would have taught myself to speak up and be open. Like I've always just dealt with my feelings by locking them away. And I never ever. A few years ago, I finally went to counselling for the first time in ages. Well, for the first time ever, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's a privilege in itself, because so many people cannot afford that. And I just think, and I think about single parents that are living on the breadline, and thinking how desperately they could do with speaking to someone. And they probably, like, I just can't even begin to imagine how those people could really do with this privilege if they were able to access that. And I went to talking therapy and I spoke to someone, and I really revisited everything, things I've just locked away for so long. And yeah, I think if I could have spoken to younger Ife, even if obviously I probably wouldn't have been able to afford to go to therapy back then, but just speaking to someone, speaking to family, speaking to friends, if I'm feeling a certain way, I think I locked and bottled everything up, and I was, like I said, it was completely robotic. It was very much like, that's the routine, this is what's going on, it's going to be happening again tomorrow, that's happening. Like there was just no acknowledging my feelings and sitting down and thinking, okay, if this is a bit rubbish at the moment, like, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
So I probably would have been more like that, and just, yeah, I guess learn to be more assertive in the workplace. But I guess that just comes with growing up, maybe.
Yeah. Do you feel that you're more able to be more open about your emotions now?
I think so. I've learned, yeah, I've definitely learned more about myself from going to therapy, which is great. It's amazing how something so simple is so effective.
Yeah.
So I've learned more about myself. I've learned that I really have, like, been hard on myself a lot throughout the years. I've blamed myself for so much, including the situation with my daughter's biological father. It probably wasn't even things that aren't even my fault. Like, I've just blamed myself for so much. So I think I'm definitely easier on myself. Um,
Yeah.
and I am, yeah, I'm definitely better with my emotions, and I can open up and I can acknowledge when there's something that isn't okay within me. And I'm really, really happy that that's happening. But yeah, like I said, I just wish I would love for other people to be able to, I don't know, to be able to access that and to be able to get that, because it's so difficult. Um,
Yeah. When you say you felt like you had, um, like, messed things up with her father and that you felt guilt from that, what would you, like, explain a little bit more about, like, what that was?
Back then, I would blame myself for absolutely anything. Like if something bad had happened that was bad and it wasn't completely my fault, then I would blame myself for it. So yeah, I guess I just blamed myself for getting myself into a situation with someone that probably wasn't the best person for me. Kind of blamed myself for the fact that she was now going to be in a single parent home and maybe going to go off to school, and she was going to be, everyone else would probably be speaking about all their kind of two parent households, and she would be like that odd one out. And I just, I blamed myself for, I don't know, have I made the right decisions when it comes to her sometimes? 'Cause like I said, there isn't anyone else to bounce off your ideas
Yeah,
to. Like you're constantly just battling with, have I made the right decision to make, like, is she going to be okay at that school, or is this going to be okay? I blame myself for I also kind of blame myself, I guess, for getting into a situation with someone that was bad news. Unfortunately, he was bad news. So
yeah,
um yeah, and maybe the way I hadn't handled some of those situations with him, perhaps I could have handled them better. And I don't know, there was always something. I would always take something and twist it until it got worse and worse and worse, and it
yeah,
was all on me. So I was
yeah,
like my harshest critic, which I think is the really kind of abusive way to be towards yourself, really. Because
yeah,
now that I'm in this, now that I am where I am, if ever I'm being a certain way towards myself, I would sit down and think, would I speak to my friends like that? Like, would I speak to my
yeah,
closest friends like that? And if I wouldn't, then there's actually a problem here. Like, you would never tell them these things. Like, you would
yeah.
be kinder to them.
It's really interesting to hear you say like that you blame yourself now and you would have handled things differently. It's even if it's like a different situation of not being like a single parent, like I think everyone can relate to that. Like being in your 20s and getting into bad situations for yourself and not handling them properly is growing
Yeah,
up, you know?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I hope that you do look back on yourself with kinder eyes. Oh, I think everyone who's listening will, because it sounds like you were handling this all yourself, taking it all on, and to see yourself anything but an absolute independent badass woman would be,
Thank you.
it sounds like inaccurate. It would be great to hear from like a little bit like how is your daughter handled from you being a single mom? How has that been for her?
I made a pact with myself quite a few years ago that I would always try and be really honest with her. I'll be honest with her about like her biological father, because I always want her to make her own informed decisions. So I'm going to try not to sway her by telling her things about him that maybe
Yeah.
how I feel, because it's
Yeah.
not really up to me. So and I always want her to know that, and I have said this a few times, like if ever you want to find him, and like when you're a bit older or whenever, just let me know. Like I'm sure I can help you, and like completely open to that. She did say at the time when we last had the conversation she wasn't interested, but I don't know if that might change.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, how has she handled it? There were a few times over the years when she was a bit young and she'd come home and she'd be like, "Oh, it was Father's Day. We had to make Father's Day things, and I didn't know what to do. I just kind of sat there." Like those kind of
Yeah.
times really broke my heart, because it's just like, don't know what to tell you, because she's like, everyone was making Father's Day cards, but then she's also quite, it is what it is. Like she is quite a strong person, but still, when you're hearing your young daughter say things like that, quite difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and just yeah, the little things like that. Because like I said, everything is really geared towards this two-parent household, and I'm hoping that we're changing the way we see things. But even in schools and the projects that we do, it's very much like we really need to move towards a point in society where we see that families are so different. There are so many different types of families. You know, there are families without kids, there are families with one parent, there are families with you know, two parents or from the same sex. Like there are so many different types of families, and I really want to see that acknowledged more. Like
Yeah.
even just like a little things, like I always want to take my daughter out on little adventures. I always wanted to get her out of the house, and we'd go to museums, or we'd go to like the woods, or we'd do things. But even if you're buying tickets for like a museum or something, it's like if you're going for the family ticket, there's only a family ticket for two parents, and it's like actually I need
Mhm.
more people to acknowledge that actually there are some families that don't come in two parents, and how can you get that discount if you are from a one parent household? So
Wow, I've
there are,
never thought of that, that you have to be in a couple to get those tickets.
yeah, like there's so many places. There was one, so I want to get this right, but I think I went on to, I think it's the National Trust. I wanted to get like a National Trust membership, and that was the first place I'd seen that had multiple options for different types of families. They had for a family with one parent, and I was just like, I was just a round of applause for National Trust. Like, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I've just never seen that. Like, like single parents, there's always there's already a struggle financially, and if you don't have access to those kind of deals that maybe a two-parent family has, like you're already just discriminating a whole bunch of people. So
Yeah.
yeah, like we've yeah, there's, like I said, there's the things are just set up for that household. So she's had moments at school where she's like, oh, they were asking like more about our our family tree, and I can't, how much can I really tell her about her family tree from the other side, because I don't know them very much either. So
Yeah.
so there's all those little things that you have to go through. But I mean, she is great. I don't know, I mean, I think she's kind of handled it all really well. And this to her is the norm. This is what she's always known.
Yeah.
She's never known anything else. So
Yeah. And I loved that picture that you sent me of you and her.
yeah.
You guys look so close and like such a
Oh,
unit. She
yeah.
really is your mini me.
She hates it when like if we ever get mistaken for sisters and stuff, she's like, Mum, just stop being so embarrassing. Like she's just like, get over it. Just like, but yeah, no, we are very close. Even if she wouldn't want to admit that, we are close. We are a
Oh.
close
Did you ever watch
unit.
Gilmore Girls together?
We love Gilmore Girls. Again,
Oh,
we need more of those shows, more shows where there are single parent households. Right, a lot of people have compared us to the Gilmore Girls actually.
oh, I
We're just
love that.
like two friends just getting on, and we're just trying our best to work out this whole kind of parent daughter thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Is she
absolutely
is
love
she
that
like
show.
Rory in any way or not really? What is
I
your
think
daughter like? Because
there
everyone
are.
listening might not have heard Gilmore Girls. What is your daughter
Yeah,
like?
there are definitely some similarities. So she is very she's okay. So I'm a massive worrier, like everything. I worry about everything. I want to make sure everything's perfect. Blah blah blah. She is so laid back and calm, and I
Mm,
kind of almost I really actually look up to her for that for some reason.
yeah,
Like I wish I had more of that mentality, like just to
yeah,
be really really calm. So she'll sometimes be the one like, Mum, don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine or something. Like she'll kind of
yeah.
say that to me. So she's very calm. She's very, I don't know how to describe her. She's just very chilled out. She really thinks about what things carefully. Like I'll just kind of blurt things out where she kind of really thinks, and she'll sit and she'll listen. Um, she's she's really really quite into just like art, and she's been teaching herself different languages, and she's
What?
like, so she's really into that. She's got like a lovely little friendship circle, and she's just quite a, she's actually quite a nice person. I think that's quite a weird thing to say about a child, but she's actually a nice person. Like she really thinks about how other people are feeling, and
Mm,
and she'll be like, what I've got this dilemma. What would you do if your friend was like this, and blah blah blah. And because we talk about everything, like we really do talk about
oh,
everything. So she'll come and we'll discuss, and I'll be like, well, how does that make you feel? And she's a really good egg. She's quite a cool and calm and collected person. I wish I was as cool as her at 13. Definitely wasn't.
so at the beginning of our call, you said like there are so many positive things as well about being a single parent. Would you share what those
Yeah.
are?
Yeah, so I don't know if you could kind of gather from how I've been speaking, but yeah, I guess the first part is that like you can make, as much as I've said it's really hard making everything on your own, but you can just raise this child on your own. You can completely decide how you're going to raise this person. I'm really, really happy with the person she's turned into, because I've kind of put my own stamp, and I've kind of taught her the things I want to teach her. Um,
Mm,
but like I said, that bond, you just can't get that anywhere else. So I think we're
yeah,
always going to have a special relationship, and we've been through things together that only the both of us can understand.
yeah,
So those things are great. You've completely just got your own time together as well. You're not sharing that time with anyone. It's just you and that person, and it's fun. Yeah, there are
yeah,
so many positives to it, and I absolutely love it. Like I do wonder what I would be like if I kind of wasn't a single parent. Like I don't know if I, like I said, in the future, if I end up having more kids, like, and I'm not a single parent, I wonder if it would take me a while to get used to, because I like that independence that we have with each, like we can just kind of completely make our own decisions, and it's all on us.
yeah,
um so yeah, I think it's just there's a special relationship that you have when it's just yourself and your child that
yeah.
you probably wouldn't have if there was another adult there.
That's really awesome. I guess my question would be about, because you said other people. How's it been like with the dating scene? Because it sounds like you have more time now. What was that like before
Yeah,
and then later?
yeah. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, the dating scene in general is really wild out there for anyone that's single and listening. It's not
Yeah,
easy at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess yeah, having a child, there is an extra layer of it. There's like there are there are some guys out there that very much wouldn't even want to be with anyone that has a child. I guess they kind of want this like pure person that's not had any kind of experiences or whatever, which I find completely bonkers. But yeah,
Yeah,
we kind of set those ones aside.
yeah,
But in general, yeah, it's obviously a lot easier now because she's older. And it's, it is quite difficult if you want to date someone and you've got like a 1 year old or something. Like that's quite difficult for them to get their heads around, but also
yeah,
difficult for you because there's a lot that goes with taking care of such a young child. But yeah, now it's a lot easier. Um, and I'm enjoying it more. I felt like in the beginning, the problem I had with dating is I think if we go back to what I was saying before, I put so much pressure on having this perfect two-parent household. And so what I found is when I went into the dating world after when she was quite young, I was looking for all the wrong things. I was like trying to really still replicate this perfect household. I was like, I have to
mm,
find this person that's going to be a replacement because we still have to have this perfect household.
yeah.
Um,
Oh
that
wow.
never works out well because you're looking for all the wrong things. And
Yeah,
now I've done so much work on myself and I've come to terms with the fact that I love our life and everything around it. And dating is completely different. It's completely, and I've got more confidence in myself. Um, so yeah, it's completely different. The only hardship is actually finding people to date because, like I said, it's wild out there. But the
it
rest of
is.
it, it's a lot. It's a lot easier. Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier. And also, it's funny because she's got a lot of opinions as well. She'll be like, "Oh, you're gonna go on a date with that person." So she's got her own opinions now, and she'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, are you going on the date then?" I was like, "No, Ria, you don't need to know." So, yeah, it's definitely different
Yeah.
now.
Oh, that's so sweet. It sounded before when you said you were dating when she was younger. Did when you said like you wanted to find the perfect family, were you dating to try and find like the father figure for her rather than someone for you?
Yes, I think that's exactly what I
Ah,
was doing, and it did not work out well at all. um,
yeah.
Anyone that I was dating, they were just all wrong. Like I was really, and everything was sped up. I was like really trying to rush everything, just speed it all up so that we could kind of get
Yeah.
to that stage where everything's fine. It never worked out. I did have a very short stint where I met someone and got married. Um, wasn't the right person for me. Again, I was still kind of looking for the wrong things. It all went a
Yeah.
bit fast. Marriage didn't last very long, surprise, surprise, because when you're looking for the wrong things, there's no longevity in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so happy with everything I've learned because there's absolutely no way I'm looking for that anymore. I'm looking for someone for me now.
Yeah.
And and like I said, I'm really picky with introducing her to anyone. So I'm happy for to just take time dating and getting to know someone and having fun. And
Yeah.
that's if I sometimes sit down, I wish I could speak to younger me that was dating, and I wish I could have just told me all of these things because it would have stopped a lot of heartache. But it's
Yeah.
all good. We learn.
That's awesome. So I've got two questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
Final questions. Uh, what advice would you give to someone who is a single parent?
I would just tell them that they're doing an amazing job because it's not easy, and we're definitely made of different stuff, single parents. So they're doing an amazing job. I would tell them to look at the gingerbread charity, which is a single parent charity. I don't think many people know of it. You can donate to it as well if you've got the extra funds. And they are basically a charity that constantly campaigns and champions and helps out single parents and just basically showing more equal families. So they're always doing reports and they're doing like lots of just like I said, lots of campaigns, and there's lots of advice on there. They have support groups on there as well. So if you need to join a support group and speak to other like-minded single parents that are on there, it's just an amazing charity because, like I said, we don't often get we do the single parent household does get overlooked in lots of different areas, as I mentioned before, with museums and things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say maybe reach out to and have a look at the gingerbread charity if you really kind of want to. Yeah, if you just need that extra cushion. Um, And Single Parent Day is on the 21st of March, which again, not many people know. So I would say also, to any single parents out there, give yourself a pat on the back on that day, because obviously it's a special day for us. And yeah, make sure you're acknowledging all the hard work that you're doing, because it is very, very hard raising a whole
Yeah.
human on your own.
Yeah. Okay. And second question is for those who are not single parents, but perhaps have friends who are single parents or siblings, how can they
Yeah.
support them?
Okay. So I would say, um, just make sure you're just there offering a helping hand. Time is not something that single parents have much of. So even just giving them a little bit of respite is an amazing hand to them. So reach out, just check in on them every now and again, even if they just need someone to discuss. Like the one thing that's really helped me is having people, if I'm about to make a really difficult decision in my daughter's life and I've got no one else to speak to about it, just having friends and family. So reach out to them reach out to them on Mother's Day or Father's Day. Like, I always find that quite a lonely day personally. Like, you
Yeah.
go on social media on Mother's Day and everyone's like, oh, look at what my partner has spoilt me and put my feet up. I've got all these lovely flowers and I've got all this stuff.
Uh,
And Mother's Day or Father's Day for a single parent is just another day, because you still got to put the washing on. There's no other person there doing
yeah.
all your stuff. So maybe reach out to them, send them something nice. Like, it's all those little things that really just make a single parent feel a bit better.
Definitely something I'll keep in mind as well. But thank you so much, Ife. This has been
Definitely.
so wonderful having you on. Um,
Oh, that's
and
good. Thank you for having me. I hope it's been useful.
it's been like one of those moments for me have been like very insightful. But thank you so much and
Thank you,
speak
and have a
soon.
good evening.
You too.
Yeah, speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.